Buster is the chromatic brawler for Season 15's Brawl Pass, The Ghost Station. He completes the Brawlywood trio with Fang and Lola, and he works at the Star Park Cinema with Fang, who happens to be his best friend. Now, he operates a projector at the theater and dreams of becoming an action hero someday in his very own Blockbuster movie.
Come by my side, no need to hide. Hope you enjoyed your dead time story. Let's go to the danger zone.
I'll share all of his voice lines and pins at the end of this video. Buster's main attack is called Lens Flare. He shoots a cone of light with his projector, which damages all enemies within range. Now, this attack deals more damage the closer you are to it and less range if you're far away. However, even his max range damage isn't something that you really want to get hit with. Now, Buster has a trait that allows him to charge his super by staying close to enemies. If he has one teammate within his blue circle around him, he will fully charge his super in 20 seconds. But if he has two teammates close to him, he can actually charge his super in just 14 seconds, which makes him one of the first brawlers who it truly makes sense to stay close to with teammates, especially thanks to his super. His super is called Montage, and it puts up a shield a few tiles in front of him that blocks all incoming projectiles completely. Additionally, it uses the energy that the shield absorbs to send projectiles directly back at the source. Now, some projectiles can shoot a lot of projectiles in one attack, like Amber, who can literally fire 10 projectiles per second. Because of this, Buster's shield has a max reflection rate of 4 projectiles per second. But brawlers like Shelly, who technically shoot off 5 projectiles with each attack, only get 1 projectile reflected back at them, no matter how close or spread out the projectiles are. The same thing happens with her super, which is really crazy. He can literally block a Shelly super. And even though her super can pass through enemies, Buster's super acts like an impenetrable wall that it cannot pass through. However, brawlers like Mortis can dash right through the super and deal damage to Buster without taking any damage at all. Minions that chase enemies down like Tick's super will go right through it and still hit Buster, so it doesn't completely stop everything. In fact, brawlers with bouncy ammo like Rico will have their projectiles bounce off of Buster's shield and continue to travel, but the shield will still send projectiles directly back at Rico, so you do have to be careful. Then again, BB's bubble seems to go right through it at first and then seems to get trapped on the other side of the shield, which brings up an interesting point. The shield will reflect projectiles from any direction unless it's perfectly angled directly from the side. As you can see here, sometimes Poco's attack gets reflected and sometimes it doesn't, depending on the exact angle. And just in case you're curious, it will even reflect from behind Buster's shield, as you can see here with 8-bit. Now, against Piper, you can see that the reflection range is absolutely massive as well, and it's the same no matter how long the projectile is fired from it. So like if you're playing a short range brawler like Nita and you dodge shots still from it, there's still a chance that you could be sending projectiles back at your teammates. As you can see, there are a lot of interesting interactions with this shield, so let me know if you'd like to see all of them in a YouTube short or something like that. Buster's first gadget is Utility Belt. When he activates this, he heals himself and nearby allies for 1000 health for each ally in his supercharge area. So if he's by himself, he will heal 1000 HP. And if he has one teammate in his circle, both he and his teammate will heal 2000 HP. But if you have 2 teammates in his circle, you won't just heal 1000 each. No, it's way more busted than that. You will each heal 3000 HP. So he does have the potential to heal 9000 health instantly for his team. Mark my words, this is gonna get nerfed because this is just crazy good. Buster's second gadget is Slow-Mo Replay. After Buster activates this, his next attack will pull enemies towards him and then slow them down for 2 seconds. It's kind of like Frank's second gadget, but it will be even harder for the enemies to escape because of the slow. The fact that his attacks deal more damage closer to him actually makes this incredibly strong. Buster's first star power is Blockbuster. This increases his attack damage by 15% for each ally in his supercharge area. So with 2 teammates by him, all of his attacks could potentially deal 3079 damage to an enemy up close. It's unlikely to happen to an enemy, but it could happen against a high safe like in this situation. It's just crazy to think about it. Now, his second star power is Kevlar Vest. This makes it so that while his super is active, he takes 20% less damage and is completely immune to knockbacks, slows, and stuns. This is actually really strong because one of the best ways to counter a super is to interrupt it. And it's also going to make it easier for him to walk balls into the Brawl Ball goal if someone passes him the ball right after he activates his super. Now that we know all of Buster's mechanics, let's compare him to every brawler in the game in the Brawl Stars Olympics events. seconds. As always, we're starting with his worst, working our way up to his best, and then I'll rank how strong I think it's going to be in every game mode. First up is the reload test. Now, Buster's attack actually has a very fast unload speed, but it actually has a slow cooldown speed, so it takes longer than average for him to fire his first 3 shots. His reload speed is far below average, so he's only able to reload all 10 shots in 23.5 seconds. That puts him in 57th place out of the 61 brawlers in the game. Next is the boss test, and Buster only has one ability that deals damage, and his reload speed is really slow, so this takes him quite a while. His Blockbuster star power doesn't help him since there are no teammates around, but he still deals a good amount of damage with each ammo because he's right up next to the boss. He defeats the boss in 1 minute and 35 seconds, which puts him in 53rd place. Next is the area test, and Buster doesn't get any help from his super in this test since there are no enemies to fire attacks back at his shield. However, his main attack is able to cover 24 tiles by itself, so Buster gets 51st place. Next is the assassin test. As we saw in the boss test, Buster only has one way of dealing damage, which is his main attack. Since he can't even reload one shot after unloading his first 3, he only puts 7,104 damage, which places him in 50th. For the attack range test, Buster's main attack actually has some pretty decent width to it and reaches 5 2/3 tiles away. This is the same range as Daryl, so they tie for 50th place. Next is the 1 second DPS test. Now for Buster, this test is exactly the same as the assassin test, except that he's only able to fire 2 shots in those 3 seconds. He deals 4,736 damage and only gets 44th place, so he is not a very good assassin, even though he does a lot of damage up close. Now for the super damage test, each projectile that is reflected deals 1,200 damage no matter what the projectile was or what it is hitting. Technically, depending on how many projectiles that hit the shield, one super from Buster could actually deal tons of damage, but it could also deal no damage at all, so we're just going to rank him based off that one projectile, so he ties with Terra, Bull, and El Primo for 35th place. Next is the race test. Now Buster doesn't have any abilities to help boost him forward in this test. In fact, his super actually slows him down to a normal movement speed when his shield is active. Because he naturally has a fast movement speed, he finishes in 11.5 seconds and ties with 6 other brawlers for 30th place. In all of those tests, he was worse than half of the brawlers in the game, and in the rest of these tests, he's better than half of the brawlers. Next is the 3 attack kill test. As we've seen, Buster deals 7,104 damage with 3 attacks. I do want to mention that the most damage he can deal with an attack is 2,368, and the least amount of damage is 1,275 if he is not close to any teammates and he doesn't have the Blockbuster star power equipped. With the Blockbuster star power equipped and 2 teammates right next to him, he can deal 3,079 damage with just 1 attack, but we're not going to count that, even though that is actually pretty insane. For the swarm test, Buster's attack can reach across the rows of bots, but at max range, some of the bots don't actually die in 1 hit. So he destroys the bots 5 at a time from the middle of the swarm, where he can deal enough damage to destroy all of them in 1 hit. Buster defeats the swarm in 3.7 seconds and gets 22nd place. Next is the auto aim test. Buster is able to hit Nita with his attack at max range just by auto aiming, and that's because of how wide his attack is and how fast the projectile speed, so you literally do not need to manually aim with him at all. But since it is at max range, it doesn't do a lot of damage. Buster gets 5 tiles and 1,275 damage, which puts him in 21st place. Next is the super range test. Buster's super appears to reach a little further than the reticle shows, but the reticle stretches 2 2/3 tiles long. He also has a reflection range of 9 1/3 tiles, so with the 2 ranges together, it equals 12 tiles, which is just honestly pretty insane, and Buster gets 16th place. Next is the box test. Now Buster's attack obviously goes through the boxes, so he doesn't have a problem opening multiple boxes at a time. In fact, all of the box groups in this test are small enough to where he can deal the same amount of damage to every box within every single group, so it doesn't actually make a difference at all. Buster completes the box test in 34.2 seconds, gets 16th place, and this suggests he's actually going to be pretty good in Showdown. Now for the survival test, brawlers are not allowed to completely block damage from the sniper bot or destroy the sniper bot, which means that he actually can't use his super to completely block damage. That being said, his Kevlar vest star power does reduce some of the damage that he takes for a couple of hits, and that allows him to survive a couple seconds longer. His utility belt gadget also buys him a few extra seconds since he can use all 3 of them, and he survives for 32.2 seconds, which puts him in 15th place, and rightfully so, suggests he's going to be really good at surviving. Next, we have the splash test. Buster's attack can hit over half the boxes with each attack, so he damages every box at least a little bit with his first 3 shots. A few boxes from the middle give him enough power cubes to take out the rest of the boxes with only 2 more attacks, and he completes the splash test in 6.8 6.2 seconds and ties with Rosa for 13th place. Next, we have the Supercharge test. As long as Buster is dealing max damage with each attack, he can charge his super with only 3 ammo. If he's hitting an enemy at max range, it takes 5 ammo instead. But with only 3 ammo, it only takes him 1.3 seconds to fully charge his super. So he ties with Lou, Buzz, and Colt for 11th place. And this suggests he will have his supercharge up very frequently. And that's every test in the Olympics events. He didn't place as high as you might think. However, there are 0 tests for blocking damage or reflecting damage. So, and he wins first for both of those. So congratulations, Buster. Now I'm going to rank Buster and how strong I think he's going to be in each game mode. And after that, I'll show you all of his voice lines and pins. When it comes to gem grab, even though Buster doesn't really have good range, I actually think he's going to be a pretty good gem carrier because of how hard it is to actually take him out, right? He's a really unique brawler because he actually encourages his teammates to be closer rather than being spread out. And if he has the right brawlers on his team, I could see him being very hard to kill. Just imagine like a Poco or a Pam keeping him alive while he's taking hits, charging up his super because of his star power or because of his trait, and then him being able to shield all 3 of them, right? He needs a little bit more range to be the S tier, so I'm just going to give him an A tier for right now in gem grab. When it comes to Brawl Ball though, okay, S tier all the way. Brawl Ball is typically better for close range brawlers because you have to play a little bit more aggressively and you use those walls to do so. Buster's not only great at close range himself, but he's going to make other aggressive brawlers even better. Imagine playing him with a Daryl or like a Bull or something like that, right? His slow-mo gadget is really excellent because he can just pull enemies toward him. So if they have the Brawl Ball, then you can actually pull them right towards you, or he can actually use that as a way to prevent enemies from defending when one of your teammates are trying to make a shot into the goal, right? It might be a little bit bold, but I think he's going to be an S tier brawler for Brawl Ball. Up next, we got Heist, and honestly, if you're playing by himself, like with randoms who aren't going to actually utilize his abilities, then he's probably a C tier, maybe a B tier brawler for Heist. But if you play with a good team that utilizes his super to push up the map, I could see him being really good in Heist, or at least somewhat good, right? Heist is all about keeping enemies away from your safe, but there's very little you can do against a Buster's shield, which is why I think that it's justified for him to be in the A tier for Heist, despite his slower reload speed. Now for Bounty though, probably his worst 3v3 game mode because he just does not have the range. He doesn't have the assassin ability if somebody happens to get up close. He might be able to protect enemies, but I have a feeling it's going to be fairly easy for enemies to dodge his reflection projectiles when he does have a shield. There might be a few maps where maybe he has enough cover to really utilize it, but most Bounty matches are wide open maps that require good range. There might also be some good cheese comps that I'm not thinking about, but for the most part, I think he's a C tier brawler for Bounty. When it comes to Hot Zone though, he's going to be insanely good. He has just enough range to where I think he's going to be able to compete against the best brawlers in Hot Zone. His attacks can go through any amount of enemy targets, and he's basically a support brawler that can keep his teammates alive while inside the zone. Like, what more could you ask for, right? Not only can his gadget instantly heal his team, but his super will easily keep enemies out of the zone, and it makes it so easy for him to charge his super because of his teammates being so close to him. Buster absolutely gets S tier for Hot Zone, but for Knockout, I'm going to give him B tier. A little bit better than Bounty, but kind of similarly, he doesn't have the range to be a top tier brawler for Knockout. His super will allow him to stay close to enemies on the map, and he can charge it just by sitting back in the spawn. And I also think that his gadgets and his super will allow him to last really long throughout any match before the smoke closes in, but he won't be the best and not the worst, so B tier makes sense. For Solo Showdown, it's kind of weird, okay? He did really well in the box test, suggesting he's going to be able to ramp up power with cubes very early on at the start. But he doesn't have very good range, and typically short range brawlers tend to get picked on a lot in Hot Zone or in Solo Showdown. Plus, his trait that automatically charges a super when teammates are close to him is literally useless in the mode. His gadget will only heal 1000 HP, and his first star power is also useless in this mode. He also has such a big cooldown between his attacks that it makes it really difficult for him to assassinate enemies quickly, and he also can't put up his shield and keep up his super up at the same time. With that being said, he has incredibly high survivability, which is really important for Showdown, so I think like he's got enough against him and enough going for him. I think landing right in the middle in the B tier is just perfect for him. With Duo Showdown though, he's gonna be way better because he's actually going to have a teammate with him. One of the best strategies for him is literally to just camp with him and his teammate in the corner to charge up his super, which will then protect them from all sorts of different kinds of things. As long as he can keep charging his super, he's always going to be able to make it down to the last few teams when the smoke actually pushes everyone in, and then he'll be able to wipe them because he can actually attack through multiple targets. I think A tier is fair in Duo Showdown. Now let's show you all of Buster's pins and his voice lines. But first, don't forget to use code Kairos in the Brawl Stars shop.
Oh man, this is the worst. Time for a rerun. I ran out of film. Let's rewind. I'm gonna need a bigger projector. I ain't got time for pain. Hanging on till the break of dawn. I felt nothing. Ugh, was that meant to hurt? No pain, no gain. Ow! Let's hope for a better sequel. No talking during the movie. Blinded by the light. Hope you enjoyed your dead time story. You got exposed. I'm a lean, mean projection machine. Gone in a flash. Keep the change. Yeah! Blockbuster! Box office smash! Star of my own movie. I brought the pain. I took the gain. Time to start the show. Lights off. It's showtime. Tickets, please. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the screening. Let's go to the danger zone. I will protect you by the power of cinema. Come with me if you want to live. Come by my side. No need to hide.